What if the man next door, the one who waves from his lawn, helps lead the Boy Scouts, maybe sits in church every Sunday, what if he was secretly a monster?
It's a chilling thought. And today we're diving deep into someone who embodied that exactly. Dennis Rader.
Born in Wichita, Kansas, March 9th, 1945. Grew up there, seemed like a totally normal Midwestern city, typical life.
Yeah, seemingly normal, but underneath. Well, Rader himself admitted later that from a really young age he had these dark thoughts.
Not just passing fancies.
No, obsessions, torturing animals, fantasies about controlling women. It wasn't, just kid stuff. It was deep-seated.
And yet, the outside picture, completely different. Served in the Air Force, came back to Wichita, got married, had kids, regular churchgoer, held down jobs.
He even studied criminal justice at Wichita State. And get this, he worked for ADT Security Services for a while.
Installing alarm systems, the irony is just, wow.
Right, protecting people from the exact kind of danger he was. And later, he was a compliance officer in Park City, Kansas.
Enforcing local codes, patrolling neighborhoods.
Exactly. People saw him as maybe a bit stern, but reliable. Quiet guy, but loyal. The perfect mask.
Until January 15th, 1974. That's when the mask slipped.
Yeah.
Horrifically. Rader went into the Otero family's home.
Joseph and Julie Otero, and their two young kids, Joseph Jr., who was 9, and Josie, 11.
He bound them, rope, tape, told them it was just a robbery.
But it wasn't about robbery, not really. He strangled Joseph Otero, then Julie, then the little boy.
Named Josie.
He put a bag over her head, suffocated her slowly. It was methodical, chillingly so. He even took a souvenir Joseph's watch.
And there was forensic evidence left behind.
Yes, semen. But investigators believed it wasn't from assault in the typical sense. It seemed linked to the power he felt watching them die. It was ritualistic.
About control. Just a few months later, April 74, he strikes again. Catherine Bright, 21 years old. She actually worked at the same company as Joseph Otero.
And her brother Kevin was there too. Rader shot Kevin twice.
But Kevin survived.
Miraculously, yes. He managed to escape. Became a crucial witness later on. But Catherine, Rader stabbed her repeatedly, then fled.
After these attacks, he starts wanting recognition.
Exactly. This need starts bubbling up. He writes a letter about the Otero murders, leaves it in a book at the Wichita Public Library.
In that letter.
He names himself BTK, bind, torture, kill. He wasn't just a random killer anymore, he was branding himself, creating this terrifying persona.
There's nothing.
For a while.
3 years of silence, which must have been terrifying for Wichita, that uncertainty. But he hadn't stopped.
No. In 1977, Shirley Vienne. He locked our kids in the bathroom first.
And later that same year, Nancy Fox. His need for attention just grew and grew. He started sending letters, making calls to the police, taunting them.
There's that infamous quote, wasn't there?
Yeah, asking a TV station basically, how many people do I have to kill before I get a name in the paper or some national attention? It was chillingly clear what drove him.
Power, notoriety. Absolutely, and fear. Wichita was gripped by it. People buying locks, checking under beds. The boogeyman was real, and he could be anyone.
And then, silence again. A much longer silence this time.
8 years. No known BTK activity, but Dennis Rader, he was still there, living his life in Wichita, right under everyone's noses.
Until 1985. The silence breaks again.
Yes, April 27th, Maureen Hedge, 53 years old, a widow. And she lived near Rader. She knew him, probably trusted him.
How did he arrange it?
He told his wife he was off on a Boy Scout camping trip. A complete lie, of course. He parked away from Maureen's house, broke in during the night, and just waited for her.
And then?
He strangled her. But what he did next is, frankly, one of the most disturbing parts of this whole case. He took her body.
Where?
To his church. Christ Lutheran Church, where he was an active member, even a leader.
He took her body to the church?
Inside the church. He posed her body, arranged her into grading positions, took photographs, documenting his absolute control. She wasn't a person to him anymore, just an object for his fantasy.
That's beyond words. And then he just disposes of the body.
Dumped her in a ditch miles away, went home like nothing happened.
The very next year, 1986, he kills again. Vicky Wiegerl.
Right, 28-year-old mother. He used a ruse this time, pretended to be a phone repairman to get inside her house.
Pulled a gun, tied her up, the BTK pattern.
And strangled her. And again, the photographs, capturing the moment before he left.
His last known victim before the next long silence came in 1991, Dolores Davis.
Dolores was 62, lived alone. He murdered her, hid her body under a bridge initially. But even that wasn't enough.
What do you mean?
He went back to the body days later, took more photos, repositioned her, still exercising that control even after death. It's incredibly macabre.
And then silence again for a very long time.
Over a decade. No letters, no calls, no known victims. And Dennis Rader just carried on. Father, husband, church president, code enforcement guy, the perfect neighbor.
Until 2004. What happened then?
It was the 30th anniversary of the Otero murders. A local paper ran a story, sort of reflecting on the cold case, asking, is BTK still out there?
And that just reignited something in him.
It seems so. That dormant ego, that need for the spotlight, it just couldn't resist. He started communicating again. Letters to newspapers, TV stations, police.
And the methods were elaborate, right? Designed to cause fear.
Oh, yeah. Leaving packages in random places.
Yeah.
Famously, one inside a cereal box left in the back of a pickup truck.
What was in these packages?
Chilling stuff. Photos of victims, Vicky Wegerle's driver's license, these twisted poems he wrote about his crimes. He even sent dolls posed like the victims with notes signed BTK.
Just pure taunting.
Absolutely. Riddles, souvenirs, making sure everyone knew BTK was back. But this time, his arrogance, the desperate need to be seen, it led him to make a mistake. A huge one.
The floppy disk.
Exactly. Early 2005, he sends a floppy disk, remember those, to a TV station. But first, he asks the police, almost testing them in another message, can you trace this?
The police. They saw an opening.
They did. They played it smart. They ran a classified ad in the paper basically saying, no, be honest with you, we can't trace those things. A calculated lie.
And Rader bought it.
Hook, line, and sinker. He sent the disk, and on that disk, buried in the file information, the metadata.
What did they find?
The name Dennis, and information linking the document to Christ Lutheran Church.
His church.
His church. A quick online search showed Dennis Rader was president of the congregation. Suddenly, they had a name, a real suspect.
And then came the DNA.
The final piece. They managed to obtain a DNA sample from his daughter through a medical pap smear record obtained legally via warrant. They compared it to the semen found at the Otero crime scene back in 1974.
It was a match.
A definitive match. It was him. After 30 years, they had him. February 25th, 2005. Dennis Rader was arrested. The reign of BTK was finally over.
What was he like when they brought him in? Did the mask finally come off?
Completely. During the interrogation, he was apparently calm, almost casual, emotionless. He just confessed, laid it all out.
Describing the murders.
In meticulous detail, he called his victims projects. Talked about how he planned them, ranked them. He kept records, sketches, souvenirs, clothing, personal items hidden in his home in secret caches.
Did he give any reason? Any explanation for why?
He talked about something he called Factor X, some kind of mysterious force he claimed drove him to kill. He even compared himself to, Ted Bundy, Jack the Ripper, famous killers.
But no remorse. No sense of guilt for what he'd done.
None that anyone could see. Reports suggest he was more disappointed that the game, as he saw it, was over, that he'd been caught.
In June 2005, he pleaded guilty. 10 counts of first-degree murder.
And in court, he gave this chilling monologue. Just stood there, deadpan, describing the killings, how he did it, victim by victim, no emotion.
How did the families react, listening to that?
Imagine just horror, tears, some people screamed, others were just in stunned silence, listening to the man who destroyed their lives describe it like reading a grocery list.
And his stated motive in court.
He said, I had fantasies. I wanted control. I wanted to put them in bondage and pretend they were mine. Stark. Chillingly simple, in a way.
August 2005, the sentence came down.
10 consecutive life sentences, no chance of parole, ever. 1 life sentence for each person he murdered.
But even in prison, he didn't just fade away, did he?
No, the manipulation continued, writing letters, giving interviews, trying to sell his artwork. He even called himself a friendly psychopath.
And he still had fantasies.
Yeah.
About killing.
Disturbingly, yes. He apparently talked about a hit list, other projects he had planned if he hadn't been caught. The desire, the core of whatever Factor X was, it didn't die just because he was locked up.
So where is he now?
Still alive. In a maximum security prison in Kansas. Getting older, pretty much alone. His daughter disowned him publicly. His wife divorced him immediately after the arrest. The church tried to erase him from their history.
But the impact on Wichita, that doesn't just get erased.
No. Those scars run deep. The survivors, the families, the whole community lived under that shadow for decades. That fear is real, and it lingers.
And the thing that sticks with you most, I think, is just how ordinary he seemed.
Exactly. He wasn't the monster hiding in the closet. He was the guy installing your security system, leading the scout troop, passing the collection plate.
And that's what makes the BTK story so terrifying.
It really is. This case is such a stark example of that duality, the mask of complete normalcy hiding this abyss, driven by that absolute need for control, for domination.
And the failure, really, of everyone around him to see the signs. Though what signs could you realistically see?
That's the terrifying question, isn't it? It forces us to think.
Yeah. Like, think about this in your own life. What are maybe the subtle ways someone might try to exert control over others? And how could those seemingly small things maybe escalate?
It's a tough balance. In any community, how do you balance trusting people, which you need to do, with being vigilant enough to spot potential harm? How do you do that without just becoming paranoid about everyone?
Right. And ultimately, what does the sheer ordinariness of somebody like Dennis Rader tell us about evil itself? About our ability, or maybe inability, to recognize it when it looks just like us?
Deep questions with no easy answers. If this story haunted you, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube.